The Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Castello and followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Mrs. Mitchell is participating remotely. The rest of us are here in person. Okay. So, superintendent's information.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Craig Baker from Thrasher Group up to the mic, please. He is going to give us an update on the pipeline situation and the relocation.
Testing. All right, we're good. So it's been a few weeks, I guess, since we've been in front of you, and I thought since we're nearing sort of the end of the due diligence period, it might be good to give an update on where things stand. We're in the heavy discovery phase, just making sure there's no outstanding issues that need to be addressed, anything that would obviously prevent the further moving forward with the purchase of the property. So a couple of things to update you on. We had to do a series of investigative items. First being the State Historic Preservation Office required us to do an archaeological dig due to the location of the property and its proximity to the stream bed. We didn't find any archaeological issues of concern there. We had to complete a pretty significant environmental study, which involved a couple of major things, which is wetland delineation, which is our folks, our environmental scientists go out and they walk the property to determine if there are any areas that are perceived or could be perceived to be wetlands, as well as identify any types of streams that could be just intermittent streams or permanent streams. So they did find a couple areas that they have noted as potential wetlands and a small stream on site. The next step there is we have to do basically what is called a jurisdictional determination, which goes through the feds, to finally say, yes, those are in an environmental wetland or a stream. Again, none of those things are catastrophic by any stretch of the imagination. They would just require the relocation of the wetlands or pay into a bank for the wetlands plus a relocation of the stream. Nothing, again, insurmountable that we don't face pretty regularly on projects in West Virginia. The tree removal is kind of the next step. We have to coordinate if you do move forward with the purchase of the property. We do have to consult with U.S. Fish and Wildlife. As you all know, we're in a government shutdown. So there are a couple things there that are sort of delaying the process for both that and the wetland delineation, but we're keeping our finger on the pulse of those to keep those things moving forward. As you know, there is an existing bridge right-of-way that was granted to the McDiffits for the construction of a future bridge over Fishing Creek to connect to Route 20. Based on kind of our experience with dealing with the Department of Highways and sight lines and the fact that this, we're looking at potential turning lanes and such, we feel pretty confidently that we're going to need to move or relocate that right away. So we have put the board's attorneys at Bowles and Rice in touch with that property owner across Fishing Creek to discuss the possibility of relocating that bridge right away, which, again, I don't foresee that being an issue since there is an existing one there. Another thing, that we have to make sure we pay extra close attention to is utilities, predominantly the sewer. And we have been working with West Virginia DEP to make certain that we can discharge a sewage treatment, a package treatment plant into Fishing Creek, because as you know, there's no public sewer close enough to tie into. So we have coordinated with them. What we found is that stream has some challenges. We can discharge into it, but kind of a benefit of this is we will be required to put in what would be perceived as a more environmentally friendly wastewater treatment plant. which is a good thing. So we'll get some green credit there that would drive the sewer piece. And before I move on to the pipeline discussion, just quickly, we have to do a certain level of conceptual drawings, which you're all aware of. So number one, we could determine whether we are acquiring enough property, both for the current school and potential expansion, as well as the ancillary facilities to support it, like the athletic fields, FFA, et cetera. So we are pretty heavily engaged in the conceptual drawing process, which, again, we'll have a rollout of that, but the goal we are shooting at would be to begin rolling out conceptual renderings, things of that nature, right around mid-November. So that's kind of where things stand related to sort of the general overall view. If there's any questions on those items, I'd be happy to answer before I move into the gas line discussion. Okay, all right. So a couple things. As we all know, there is a large Williams pipeline that runs through the property, which we've discussed before. They have been very good to deal with so far. I mean, we've had great communication. They have assigned their engineers and project management team to the project, again, to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as what's required for the relocation of these lines. They're not doing any formal engineering or construction work or anything of that nature, just to be clear. So basically, what they have done, the first thing they did is they prepared the reimbursement agreement, which basically says that the Board of Education will reimburse Williams Pipeline for the relocation of this line. So they prepared that. That has been sent to Thrasher, the Board of Education, and forwarded on to Bowles-Rice for their review. So they're in the process of looking at that. They have started a preliminary routing to show where the line might go, and that's really for a couple reasons. Number one, to determine the length of the relocation so that we can apply a dollar figure to that. Secondly, so that we, on our planning side of things, can make sure that our roads, our fill slopes, any additional planned facilities that we would put in the river bottom, like the wastewater treatment facility, that we have space to put that. So we're really kind of doing a little extra due diligence there. So far, they're looking at approximately 3,500 lineal feet of gas line that they would have to relocate. And you're familiar enough with the property to know it currently goes up and over the McDiffit property. Now we are going to route it around the stream bend, that is the plan, which equates to about 3,500 lineal feet. They, as you can imagine, have some pretty strict laws, and full disclosure, we've had to really dig into this to understand, to make sure what we are proposing to do with the buildings and facilities will work. And basically, the sort of reduced version of it is their design laws require that anything within 330 feet to the center line of the gas line to be what they classify as a thicker wall pipe. So it's the gauge of the pipe essentially is thicker. As we currently have the facilities designed, we are at a minimum of 500 lineal feet away from the center line of that line. So we've far exceeded their minimum requirements. And to mention, as you know, we're going to basically fill and build the school out on a peninsula. So not only are we 500 lineal feet away from the Williams line, but we are 100 feet above the elevation of the line. So we have, luckily, we've been able to exceed their minimum design recommendations. So that's a good thing. The even better thing is Williams, just due to its proximity to the type of facilities that we're building, even though they wouldn't be required to install the heavier wall pipe, they're going to go ahead and do that anyway. So the estimates that they're providing us are to include going the extra mile and putting the thicker wall pipe in for an extra added safety measure. Good news, kind of shocking to me, they're saying generally 30 to 45 days. Once we say go and the design is complete, they will have that work completed. And the reason that that's important for us is if we do intend on starting a mass earthwork package next spring, once the weather breaks, then that tells us that we need to have Williams starting their pipeline relocation in February at the latest. So we're kind of trying to piece together this overall master schedule. The other thing that we've asked very specific questions about is I think there's significant value to the property along the river bottom where we are looking at relocating the line for use for, we've talked about the possibility of FFA facilities, facilities for their farm animals. We've talked about the potential for youth sports fields, things of that nature, things that might not necessarily be permanent structures. Williams had no issues at all with us being able to build over top of those. Now, they will require a 50-foot right-of-way for their pipeline. So if we did build a permanent structure like a building, restrooms, something of that nature, it would be out of that right-of-way. But athletic fields, practice field, whatever we wanted to put down there, they were totally okay with us doing that, which, again, was another reason for them to go with the thicker wall pipe for safety reasons. So I think overall, as I mentioned, they've been very good to work with. I haven't really gotten any major surprises as of yet, so nothing that tells me that we should run away from this property. So that's the Williams side. Any questions on that? Okay.
How much pressure is on this line?
I do not, sir, but we can get you that information.
I think that's something we need to look at.
Absolutely. I'll work with them tomorrow, and I'll forward the information on to Superintendent Porter.
So we would be driving the bus back and forth across
Yes, sir.
this all the time?
Yes, sir.
How far, when you say 3,500 feet, how far is 3,500 feet compared to that whole bottom?
About half. So if you can imagine, you know where the line currently crosses Fishing Creek.
Yes.
So we're going to intercept that there, or they will intercept that there, route it around the bend. So that whole bend that we're routing is around 3,500 feet, if that makes sense.
So there'll be a 50-foot right-of-way that we're going to really do nothing with.
All the way around. Now, I think I see where you're headed. My first question was, okay, does that 50 foot, how does that limit your ability to do anything with that additional property? So what we are currently in the process of doing is, for example, what would a middle school need to practice soccer? What would a youth soccer league need to have events? So we're, in our master planning process, we're starting to look at what would fit down there so that we'll have a good idea of what works. Again, you have to remember too that property sits in the floodplain. So I think, we'd have to be careful as to putting anything permanent there, even though, people say that's never flooded. I think we would want to be very careful in our planning efforts in that area.
My concern is letting the kids play on a high-pressure gas line all the time. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen 3 pipelines blow up, and they're not pretty, by no means.
Yeah.
And so they'll blow debris for miles. And then you got to be able to close the gates, the flow on the flow side and on the discharge side. Plus, you got the gathering lines on that coming in there. So this is not something you would shut down in a matter of minutes. This would take maybe hours, and our kids would be trapped in the school this entire time with their eardrums covered because, and if you've ever been around a high-pressure gas line at 1,000 pound, it creates a big noise. I'm very concerned about that area, very concerned.
Yep. I understand.
I have one question that is with that. Are we still going to have 2 entrance exits?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So if
so-
something happened down on that lower end, like you were talking about, we could still get them out the other way, correct?
So the way that the current routing of the road, and again, this is very preliminary. Really, we're going through the exercise right now to make sure, number one, that we're purchasing enough property to do what we need to do, okay? Because the rear exit, I think to Mr. Glasscock's concern, if there were an incident, how big of an area would that affect, right?
Right, but at the same time, if it blows up, there's no way of getting them kids on either exit. No way. There's no way they can leave that school while it's blowing. There's no way. You're talking debris blowing miles and miles away, including blowing up to the school. and possibly blowing the windows out of the school.
Sure.
I'm very concerned about that. That's a safety issue, a very big safety issue.
Whenever you're gathering that information as far as the PSI on the lines that are going to be rerouted here, can you also ask these same types of lines, where else are they located in other areas and how it affects or what their protocols are? So, you know, I know people that work at Williams right along Route 2. If something happens there, are we going to miss half of Moundsville? So it's kind of part of it
Right.
within this area. I don't want to say we're, you know, throwing everyone in danger by doing this, because there are many lines, multiple places. There are well pads everywhere. You can hear them going off, you know, all the time. So I just want to look at, okay, this is what we're putting here, but what do we have in other places that are similar to that, and what are, you know, every place usually has an evacuation procedure, and see what those are.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll definitely do some digging and see how common this is, for sure.
One of the things we need to be concerned about and look at is look down at on I-77 when it blowed the pipeline out from underneath the interstate over there, and the people was out of the houses for months. Look over at Cameron a few years ago when the pipeline blowed up and for miles, and it came out of the ground like a spiral notebook. Same way at 100 when it happened over there, it blew for miles. I mean, we're not talking something here as low pressure. We're talking high pressure, and an emergency of this is bad.
Understand your concerns. We will continue our due diligence and see what Williams' response is to all of those items. Similarly, with TC Energy, as we know, there's a line that runs through there. It's a much smaller line. They have been equally as generous to work with us as far as the routing of that line. Fortunately, it looks that it would run within the same path as the Williams line. And our goal, at least preliminarily as it's been laid out, is to run adjacent to it. So they just got on board a couple weeks ago, so they're moving forward. It's a much shorter distance. It comes, if you're imagine the property, it comes from the existing compressor station building and runs across the bridge that's there that feeds the McDiffett property, and it sort of parallels their road. So the plan there would be to run parallel to Tim's property and then go toward the creek and follow the creek around. It would follow the same route. So I can certainly ask the same questions to TC Energy and try to get you some comfort level there. One thing.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty familiar with that. I worked for him for 25 years.
Okay. We will.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that they would consider this what they call an HCA or a high consequence area, which means that the operator of the pipeline would have to undergo, more stringent guidelines and pipeline integrity measurements and monitoring. I think that if it's within so many feet of a school, it definitely falls into an HCA.
I believe you're correct, yes. And I think it may even be good at some point in time for those types of specific questions related to the gas line to maybe get a representative from Williams or TC here. One of their engineers would be good. I think you all know, too, the existing property that the secondary exit goes through, where the compressor station is. As we've learned, the compressor station buildings are abandoned. They are actually considering demolishing those. So there was actually even some discussion about the possibility of what their future use would be with that property. One thing we've had some challenges with, because those buildings date back to the early 1930s. We've had some deed research that goes back to the early 1900s in trying to locate an exact easement that goes through there. We've had our team, we've had Bowles Rice and TC Energy's teams all looking for something formal. We're still looking for that, but the kind of good news that comes out of that is if there were ever any concerns about those old aging buildings and the secondary egress, that may even be an option to look at an acquisition or something of that property in the future. So it seems that they're interested to move that. TC Energy did mention that they were considering upgrading that existing line already, and if they were already willing to do that, there may be some possibility of some partnerships there as far as cost sharing and things. So again, we have their upper level folks taking a look at that as we speak.
Any other questions?
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
The next item on the agenda, oh, did you have anything else, Mrs. Porter, that you wanted? Okay. Next item on the agenda is Superintendent's recommendation for approval of minutes from the regular meeting September 30th, 2025, and for the special agenda from October 7th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I move for approval.
It's been moved by Mr. Costello. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our next section is personnel matters, and before we vote on anything, I have a couple corrections that we need to make. If we look on page 2, under extracurricular, the third name down should be Freed, F-R-E-E-D, the D is missing, and then go down 2 more, and we are scratching out the Ted Sumner post that's right there, okay? So, for personnel matters, we're looking at resignations, professional personnel, service personnel, extracurricular, leaves of absence. Do I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's recommendations as listed under personnel matters? It's been moved by Mr. Glasscock. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is C, employee personnel hearing. This is to conduct an employee personnel hearing concerning the superintendent's recommendation of a service employee suspension without pay. I move that we go to executive session by code 6-9A-4B-2-A for the discussion of personnel matters.
I second.
It's moved by Mrs. Fawner. It's been seconded by Mr. Costello. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. This time we will be going into executive session. We're going to ask those of you that are not involved in the hearing, if you would please go out and you can wait in the table area, and we will call you back in. return to regular session. It was made, a motion made by Mr. Glasscock to leave the executive session. It was seconded by Mrs. Fawner. It was a unanimous vote to come back to open session at 6:17, and now we are at 6:19. Does the superintendent have a recommendation?
Madam President, I recommend that you ratify the one-day unpaid suspension of John Kane.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation.
It's been moved by Mrs. Nice. Is there a second? I second it. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed? Oh, you said aye. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Motion carries unanimously to uphold the one-day suspension. We're now under routine matters. We have a lease agreement, use of facilities. The release from Wetzel County Schools is one person. And then the approval for chaperones and volunteers for the 25-26 school year. Do I have a motion for approval of the superintendent's recommendations as outlined under routine matters? It's been moved by Mr. Costello. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Glasscock. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. The next one, number 4, discussion and possible action on the athletic fields located in 100 West Virginia. I move that we go into executive session for property motion code 6-9A-4B-9 to discuss financial property matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, or lease of property or advanced construction planning. Is there a second to go into executive session? It's been moved by Mrs. Fawner, seconded by Mr. Costello. All those in favor of going into executive session, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I'd like our treasurer to stay with us, and also Mr. McPherson, please.
Okay, Treasurer and Mr. McPherson, please stay with us. Thank you. We are back to regular session at 6:35. We left executive session at 6:34, moved by Mr. Castello, seconded by Mrs. Nice. It was unanimously approved to come back to regular session. At this time, I move that we give Mrs. Porter the authority to do any legal paperwork.
She's there. She's never came wrong.
She's always been there.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
We'll be sure.
Okay. To collect any legal paperwork so that we could make these decisions, such as converting back to us, getting access to field if 100 Heritage would need it, getting surveyed for part of the fields, and bring it back to us as the board.
Motion.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Fawner, seconded by Mr. Castello. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next thing, treasurer's report.
I have point A for you, the requesting approval of the payment of bills for the month of September 2025. And for point B, I do not have any transfers or increases in the budget at this time.
I move for payment of the bills.
It's been moved by Mr. Castello. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Glasscock. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we're on to first and second reading of revised Wetzel County policies. Let's just look at the first reading one, and then we can group the others together if needed. So first reading of IKE promotion and retention from Mrs. Chambers. Does anybody have any questions about it for Mrs. Chambers, or is there anything you want to share with us?
Just that we had to add the House Bill 3035 information, and it was about third grade retention policy. We have to have a policy in place by spring, and then the students this would apply to would be the 26, 27 students.
Okay, as she said, and since you weren't on a mic, I'm going to repeat that. We have to have a policy for this because of policy 3035, the third grade retention for students that aren't at the levels they need to be in reading and math to be retained, but that's also after teacher discussion about them. Okay. All right, so do I have a motion to approve on first reading IKE?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Castello, second. Second by Mrs. Nice. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so now we approved all these others on first reading already. KB, KC, KCA, KD, KE, KGC, KJ, IKC. I move that for approval of reading on all those that are on second reading. It's been moved by Mrs. Fawner. Is there a second? Seconded by Mrs. Nice. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Are there any board member committee reports? Okay. There are no delegations. So under other items, discussion of policy 2322, West Virginia Support and Accountability, School Performance, Student Outcomes, Academics, and Student Achievement. Mr. Barkus on attendance.
It's okay, we'll share.
Okay, so I want to go over some attendance information with you all tonight. I'm not going to read through this word for word to you guys, but I'm going to hit on some of the highlights. So the first part there is about a conference called the Attendance Collaborative Conference that was started a few years ago by the State Department of Education. And the focus was to create more of a school focus, a level at the school level of focus on attendance and not just always at the county office statewide. So for these conferences, there's always 5 people that attend: the principal, the communities and school site coordinator, whose main goal is always attendance statewide, either the school counselor or the social worker, then myself, and then we rotate Mrs. Chambers and Mr. Houston back and forth as well. So they're able to, share ideas with one another, gain insights from a national speaker, different incentives and rewards and strategies they can use in order to promote and increase attendance. One thing that they always stress to us each year is that the goal is always to try and increase attendance 1% at a time. So 1% doesn't seem like a lot when you first hear that, but when you're talking about hundreds of kids across the school, 180 days a year, 1% is a lot of increased time and seats. So you look down to the next section, there's 2 main attendance rates. One has been in place forever, one's kind of new that comes from the feds. So the first one is called the average daily attendance rate. That's pretty simple to understand. You're there or you're not, okay? And so you're present or you're absent. The second one, well, I'm going to wait on the second one for a minute. So if you look at the first one here, this has the 22-23 school year, the 23-24 school year, and the 24-25 school year. So 100 Heritage has increased 1% in that period of time. New Martinsville School has increased 3% in that period of time, which is a huge gain over the course of 2 different school years. Payton City Elementary has increased 3%. Shortline School has increased 3%. Magnolia High School has increased 1%. Valley High School has increased 1%. And as a county, we went from 91% to 92 to then 92.4. Okay, so we're starting to get back to where we were before the COVID pandemic. I know everybody gets tired of hearing about the COVID pandemic, but attendance statewide and nationwide plummeted after that. Okay, so before the pandemic, our county rate was usually right around 93%, and you see we're at 92.4 last year. So the second one is called the chronic absenteeism rate, and that's the one that comes from the Federal Department of Education. The easiest way I can explain that, because it's kind of a unique way of looking at it, they are looking for 90% of the students to have a 90% attendance rate or higher. Okay, so like if you would look at it as a classroom example, when we first started this, I always told the principals, think if you had an English test. Okay, all the students who receive a 90% or higher pass. Anybody below a 90% fails. Okay, so it's a tough way of looking at it. It's a much higher bar. So that number is always much lower than the average daily attendance. In 2023, we had a 91% attendance rate as a county, there or not. But for the chronic absenteeism, 69% of our students had a 90% attendance rate or higher, which means 31% did not, okay? So 31% of our students had missed more than 10% of the year. The following year, 74% of our students had a 90% rate or higher, which means 26% did not. And then last year, 78% of our students had a 90% rate or higher, which means 22% did not. So we have had a 9% gain in the chronic rate in the last few school years, okay? That is a huge growth. That goes out to a lot of people, okay? That success goes out to a lot of different people at the school level. The school principals have attendance teams in place. The teachers are constantly doing everything they can do with attendance. Our communities and schools people cannot stress that enough. They have really worked very, very hard on attendance to improve that rate. Some other things they do is, I'm constantly talking to our site coordinators, the community and schools folks, on drilling down into that data. So they can look into the data through the computer system and see what students had maybe an 85% rate to a 90% rate. And you're trying to grab those kids and bump them up. And then you're doing the same thing for the kids who are maybe in the 75 to 80% range and bump them up as well. So there's a lot of work going into that to get that 1 or 2% gain each year.
Mr. Barkus?
Yes.
I think we also have to mention that, especially with the people that are going out into the homes of parents and working with parents and trying to bring parents into the school system for activities, that the parents, some of the parents are actually helping a lot now too to get that number up.
Absolutely. It begins and ends at the home. It always does. It begins and ends at the home. So at the elementary and middle school level, one of the main pushes that we hear at these conferences and all of our trainings are attendance rewards and incentives. that is a huge thing to drive up the attendance rate. And then for the high school level, the semester exam policy is the main thing. Some of you guys will remember for decades, we also had the driving license incentive, okay? And then the state legislature took that away probably 5 or 6 years ago now. So, for the high school kids, the number one incentive is the semester exam policy. The next thing I want to touch on are the attendance slogans. And our schools have attendance slogans, and they may blast this out in social media and newsletters. I see some of you shaking your heads already. Letters home, posters across the school building, magnets that they send home for parents to track their kids' attendance, that sort of thing. It's all kind of a play on 95%. The goal is to try to get 95%. So, 3 of our schools use Strive for 95. New Martinsville School, which is the first school that I took to the Attendance Collaborative Conference 2 years ago, they use 171, get it done. So 171 out of 180 is your 95. Shortline School uses 9 or less, stay on track for success to play off their engineer. And then Payton City Elementary, Wildcats show up. So they all have a different attendance slogans and mottos. The next thing going through is attendance, incentives, and rewards. So this is something, Mrs. Porter and I have discussed many times over the past few years, as well as, statewide meetings and everything. It's a fine line. We want to be able to give kids rewards and incentives and to celebrate their success. But at the same time, we're also trying to find some ways that we can do that inside the building as well and not have to always be a trip. So some different things they use are listed there, school by school. I'm not going to read all that to you, but at the elementary, there's a lot of different games and competitions with one another, and rewards and incentives. But that's a couple pages long there. And then going on to the high schools, you'll see what PBIS rewards and strategies and semester exam that they use as well.
We've also asked our principals to put in an educational piece as much as possible when we approve trips or events and activities. We'd like them to tie that in with some kind of education.
Right.
Okay.
I like the t-shirts. We got a 171
It-
at home.
Yeah.
For t-shirt family.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Barkus?
Thank you, Mr. Barkus.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next would be Mrs. Porter and Mrs. Chambers on the CSI schools.
So we have a quick video that we're going to show. It's about 4 minutes long from the State Department. It's going to explain a little bit about the CSI schools. We do have 2 schools that will be actually working with this team. Mrs. Chambers and I have actually talked about doing this just countywide in our lower grades. So this is just a quick 4-minute overview, and then we can discuss a little bit.
This video has been developed by the Office of ESEA, Improvement and Support to help local education agencies, or LEAs, understand the roles and responsibilities of those who work with schools newly identified for comprehensive support and improvement. Let's take a few minutes to discuss how the Office of ESEA, Improvement and Support provides technical assistance for school improvement across our state. 1 or more of the schools in your LEA have been identified for comprehensive support and improvement, or CSI. CSI is a designation described in our state consolidated plan for the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. This plan outlines the procedures by which the West Virginia Department of Education provides support to low-performing schools. What is CSI? CSI is a federally mandated school improvement designation that identifies and supports schools requiring the most assistance in improving student outcomes. But more than that, it's an opportunity for schools to engage in a structured, data-informed process that helps them grow stronger and more effective. Whether you're a teacher, principal, or district leader, your role is vital in helping every student succeed. CSI is one of the ways we work together to ensure that all schools have the necessary tools, resources, and support they need to grow and thrive. How are schools identified in West Virginia? The West Virginia Department of Education uses data from the Balanced Scorecard to identify CSI schools. The scorecard looks at multiple indicators of school performance, including academic achievement in English language arts and mathematics, student progress in English language arts and mathematics, graduation rates, English learner progress, and student success measures such as attendance. every 3 years, the West Virginia Department of Education identifies the lowest 5% of performing Title I schools and schools with low-performing subgroups for CSI based on the balanced scorecard indicators. This ensures we are focusing our support where it is needed most. What happens after identification? Once a school is identified, it enters a 3-year improvement cycle with an additional year for sustainability. During this time, the school receives targeted support from the WVDE and its LEA. This includes diagnostic reviews, support for strategic planning, and professional development aligned to the West Virginia standards for effective schools. The goal is to build sustainable systems of improvement led by the school and LEA teams, supported by data and driven by a shared commitment to student success. Families and community members, I want to share how important your role is in supporting your school's journey of growth and improvement. When a school is identified for comprehensive support and improvement, or CSI, it means we're taking a closer look at how to better serve every student, and your voice is essential in that process. Families and community members bring valuable insight, support, and partnership that help schools create learning environments where all students can thrive. You can make a difference by staying engaged, attending school events, participating in parent-teacher conferences, joining school improvement discussions, or simply encouraging your child every day. Community organizations, local leaders, and businesses also play a powerful role by offering resources, mentorship, and support that extend learning beyond the classroom. This is a team effort. When schools, families, and communities work together, we build stronger foundations for student success. Thank you for your continued support, your involvement, and your belief in the potential of every child. Why this matters. CSI isn't about labeling schools. It's about lifting them up. It's about ensuring every student, regardless of background or ability, has access to a high-quality education. And it's about working together, educators, families, and communities, to create schools where all students thrive. Thank you for your dedication to our students and for being a part of this important work. If you have questions or need support, the WVDE is here to help. Together, we can make a lasting difference in the lives of West Virginia's children. For more information, contact the West Virginia Department of Education's Office of BSEA Improvement and Support.
That was a nice overview. So we will be working specifically with 100 Heritage School and Shortline School, but as I stated earlier, Mrs. Chambers and I will also be doing the same process with our teams at New Martinsville School and Payton City Elementary School. So the teams do include the both of us, Mr. Houston, actually everybody, everyone that's involved, from attendance to what we're doing every single day. Principals, they have school leadership teams. They will go through some extensive training and get us back on track. Do you have anything to add to that?
So the school leadership team is a big component to this. And we went to a training last week and they spent half the day just talking about leadership teams and getting the right people on those leadership teams. So that's going to be a great place for us to start.
I want to make, excuse me, I want to make one comment. These schools and staff, students and families, this is a chance for us to all work together to do the best that we can for our students. This is not saying that it's not a good school.
No, not at all.
This is not saying that it's the staff. This is a chance for us to work together to just do what's best for our students.
I'm kind of looking forward to the support that we're getting from the WVDE, to be honest with you. They've got some specific structures in place for us to follow, so I think we'll learn a lot through this process. Thank you.
When we look under the date and times of next meeting, there is one correction that's on there. If we look under November 13th, special meeting hearings at county office, the first one at 1 o'clock should be NMS, not 100 Heritage. And the one at 4 should be 100 Heritage, not New Martinsville School. And there are a lot of meetings listed. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Costello. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mrs. Nice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are done at 6:55.